The desert did not scream when it killed you. It waited. Ash-colored sand stretched to the horizon of Karen 9, broken only by shattered metal and the bones of old machines. The sky above burned orange, heavy with radiation storms that rolled like slow thunder. In the middle of that dead world, a young alien woman lay half buried in the sand, her armor shattered, her breathing shallow. Her name was Seria Valketh. She had been a commander once. A shield-bearer of the Virel Dominion. Trusted. Feared. Loyal to the end. And that loyalty had almost killed her. Hours earlier, her own unit had turned their weapons on her ship. Command had called her ideas dangerous. Her sympathy for humans was labeled treason. When she refused to order the extermination of a human colony, the verdict was immediate. Dispose of her. No trial. No explanation. They shot down her escape craft and left her body where the sun could finish the job. Now Seria could barely move. Her left arm was useless. Her leg was pinned beneath fused armor and glassed sand. Each breath burned. Her vision flickered between light and shadow. So this is how it ends, she thought. A slow death. Forgotten. The Dominion believed the desert would erase her. They were wrong. Because humans were never supposed to be here. A low vibration rippled through the sand. At first, Seria thought it was another storm. Then came the sound, metal against stone. Footsteps. She forced one eye open. A figure walked toward her from the haze. Tall. Broad. Wrapped in layered cloth and scavenged armor. A visor hid his face, reflecting the burning sky. Human. Her body tensed on instinct. Even broken, her hand twitched, searching for a weapon that was no longer there. The human stopped several steps away. He did not raise a gun. He did not run. He simply looked at her. Easy, he said, voice calm, low. You're safe. As much as anyone can be out here. Safe. The word felt unreal. Seria tried to speak. Nothing came out but dust and blood. The human cursed softly and moved closer. He knelt beside her, careful, slow, like he knew she might still kill him if she could. I'm not Dominion, he said, as if reading her thoughts. And I'm not here to finish the job. She laughed weakly. It came out like a broken cough. Humans were supposed to fear the Virel. Humans were supposed to run. This one didn't. He pulled out a scanner, its cracked screen flickering. You're dying, he said bluntly. But not yet. Her silver eyes locked onto his visor. Why? She whispered. Help me. The human hesitated. Then he removed the visor. His face was weathered, scarred, human in every imperfect way. Dark eyes, tired but sharp. Someone who had seen war and lived past it. My name is Elias Rohn, he said. And I don't leave people to die just because someone else says they deserve it. That answer hurt more than the wounds. He dug carefully, freeing her trapped leg, bracing her body before the pain could overwhelm her. She screamed. He held her steady. Stay with me, Elias said. You don't get to die today. The desert screamed then. A storm rose without warning, sand whipping like blades. Elias lifted her with effort, her weight heavy with armor and failing implants. He activated a beacon and moved fast, boots sinking into the sand. Seria faded in and out. She remembered standing in a council chamber, arguing that humans were not weak. That their unpredictability was strength. That cooperation, not conquest, would save them all. They laughed at her. They shot her ship down. The world went black. She woke to cold metal and steady humming. Her eyes snapped open. For a moment, panic flooded her. Then she realized she was indoors. A bunker. Old. Human-made. Dim lights flickered along the walls. Air filters rattled overhead. She was lying on a cot. Alive. Her armor was gone. Clean bandages wrapped her wounds. The pain was still there, but distant now, dulled. Elias sat nearby, working on a weapon that looked older than both of them. You heal fast, he said without looking up. Or you're stubborn. Hard to tell. You should not have saved me, Seria said quietly. He finally looked at her. Yeah. People tell me that a lot. She struggled to sit up. He didn't stop her, but he moved closer in case she fell. They will come, she said. The Dominion does not forgive. Elias nodded. I figured. You are human, she continued. Helping me makes you a target. A small smile tugged at his mouth. Been a target most of my life. Silence filled the bunker. Seria studied him. No insignia. No rank. No fear in his posture. Just a man surviving on the edge of a galaxy that wanted him small. Why do humans keep fighting? She asked. Even when the odds are impossible. Elias thought for a moment. Because we don't like being told our story is over. Something in her chest shifted. Outside, the storm howled against the bunker doors. And far away, Dominion sensors began to wake. They had left her for dead. They had no idea what she was about to become. The bunker shook as the sandstorm slammed into it like an angry sea. Inside, the air was warm but thin. The filters groaned, choking on dust. Elias Rohn stood at the sealed door, one hand on a manual lever, the other holding a cracked scanner that buzzed with weak signal. Seria sat upright on the cot, forcing her body to obey. Every breath still hurt, but the pain was no longer winning. She watched Elias work and felt something unfamiliar twist inside her. Trust was dangerous. But so was being alone. They're close, Elias said. He didn't need to explain who. The way his voice tightened told her enough. Seria slid off the cot, her legs shaky. She grabbed a heavy jacket from the wall and pulled it on, then reached for a belt of tools and scrap blades hanging near the generator. Elias noticed. You sure you can stand? I can stand, she said. And I can fight. Elias didn't argue. He just nodded once, like that was the only answer that mattered. He tapped the scanner again. A distorted blip pulsed, then doubled, then tripled. 3 contacts, he murmured. Fast. Seria's blood went cold. Not just soldiers. Elias raised an eyebrow. They'll send Virel reclaimers, she said. Elite hunters. They don't retrieve people. They erase them. Elias exhaled slowly. Of course they do. He turned away from the door and walked to a workbench packed with scavenged parts, broken drones, cracked power cells, wiring coils, old weapons from forgotten wars. Seria expected him to reach for something big. Something loud. Instead, he grabbed a handful of nails, a strip of metal mesh, and a battery the size of his palm. You're building a trap, she said. Elias smirked. I'm building 3 traps. Seria blinked. With scrap. With whatever the galaxy leaves behind, he corrected. Humans are good at that. He moved fast, hand steady, mind sharper than his tired face suggested. He wired nails into a mesh plate, connected it to the battery, and sealed the whole thing into a chunk of broken plating. Seria leaned closer, watching. That will not stop a reclaimer. Elias looked up. It doesn't have to stop them. It has to slow them down. And it has to make them angry. Angry, she repeated. Angry hunters make mistakes, Elias said. Calm hunters kill you. Seria hated how true that sounded. Another vibration rolled through the ground. This time she felt it in her bones. They've landed, she whispered. Elias shut off the interior lights. The bunker fell into shadow, lit only by the faint glow of the generator. Stay quiet, he said. Seria turned her head toward the ceiling, listening. Her kind were trained for sound, for pressure shifts, for the whisper of movement across open terrain. Even through meters of sand and metal, she heard it. Footsteps. Not heavy boots like infantry. These were careful. Precise. Like predators circling a den. Elias crouched near the door and placed one of his devices on the floor, then ran a thin wire to the control panel. Door opens, he whispered. They step in, they get shocked hard enough to dance. Seria stared at him. You built a stun mine. Elias shrugged. I call it a welcome mat. The footsteps stopped. A voice spoke outside, translated through the bunker's old external speaker in a tone that made Seria's spine tighten. "Seria Valketh. You have been found." Elias's eyes narrowed. He mouthed silently, "You know them?" Seria shook her head once, but her face hardened. "That one is Reclaimer Prime," she whispered. "They don't send those unless they want an example." Outside, the voice continued, calm and cruel. "You will be returned for correction. The human sheltering you will be terminated. This is Dominion Mercy." Elias leaned closer to the speaker and pressed the MIC button. "No thanks," he said. "We're closed." Seria almost flinched. The human wasn't just defiant. He was playful about it. Silence followed. Then, metal scraping. "They're cutting in," Elias muttered. Seria's hand tightened around a scrap blade. She hated this. Hated being weak. Hated needing a stranger. Hated that her own people were now the monsters in the dark. A bright line of heat sliced along the door seam. The bunker door glowed orange as a cutting torch burned through. Elias positioned himself behind a metal pillar, motioning for Seria to hide behind the workbench. She didn't. She stepped beside him. Elias glanced at her. "I said." "I'm not hiding," she replied. For a moment, Elias looked like he wanted to argue. Then he nodded, like he respected the choice. The cutting line finished. The door slammed inward with a heavy groan. Cold wind and sand exploded into the bunker. 3 figures entered. They were taller than humans, wrapped in black adaptive armor that shimmered like oil. Their helmets had narrow red slits instead of eyes. Their hands were too still, too patient. The first reclaimer stepped forward, and his boot landed on Elias's welcome mat. The device detonated with a crackling burst of blue-white electricity. The reclaimer's body jerked violently, armor sparking. He stumbled, slamming into the bunker wall. The other 2 snapped their weapons up instantly. But they didn't fire. They scanned. Calculated. Elias whispered, "See? Angry." The shocked reclaimer recovered quickly, faster than any normal soldier. He looked down at the burnt mesh, then at Elias. The red visor slit narrowed like a blade. "Human," the reclaimer said. "You have made an error." Elias raised an old rifle slowly. "Yeah, well, I make a lot of those." The reclaimer moved. Not walking. Gliding. A sudden burst of speed, like a machine pretending to be alive. Elias fired. The rifle kicked hard. The bullet sparked off the reclaimer's armor and did nothing. Seria's heart sank. Elias didn't flinch. He fired again, not at the reclaimer. At the ceiling vent. A metal panel fell, slamming down between them with a crash, blocking line of sight for a split second. And that split second was everything. Elias grabbed Seria's wrist. "Now!" They sprinted into the side corridor. Behind them, the reclaimer smashed through the fallen panel with brute strength, metal screaming. Seria ran as fast as her injuries allowed. The corridor twisted through old mining tunnels, lined with cables and rusted pipes. Elias led without hesitation, like he had memorized every shadow. "You planned this," Seria gasped. "I live here," Elias said. "You don't live somewhere this ugly without knowing how to escape it." A loud thump echoed behind them. The reclaimers were coming. Fast. Seria's lungs burned. Her wounded side flared with pain. She bit down hard, refusing to slow. Elias reached a junction and slammed his hand into a control switch. A steel hatch dropped behind them, sealing the tunnel. The impact echoed like a drum. Seria allowed herself one breath of relief. Then the hatch bowed inward. A clawed hand punched through the metal, peeling it like thin foil. Seria's eyes widened. That door should hold. Elias's face was grim. It would, against normal things. The claw tore more. The metal screamed. Seria stepped forward, lifting her scrap blade. Elias pulled her back. "Not like this." "What then?" she hissed. Elias reached into his pocket and pulled out a tiny device, no bigger than a coin. He pressed it against the tunnel wall and turned. The device clicked into place. Seria stared. "What is that?" Elias met her eyes. "A lie." Then he whispered into his comm, voice low and steady. "Beacons active. Dominion unit confirmed. Location: Sector 9. Repeat, Sector 9. Seria's heart jumped. "You just called them," she said. Elias shook his head. "I called something else." The hatch finally tore open. The Reclaimer Prime stepped through, slow, confident, weapon raised. Then his armor speaker crackled. A different voice answered Elias's broadcast. "Not Dominion. Old, static-filled, human. Signal received. Unauthorized Dominion presence detected. Countermeasure protocol initiated." Seria froze. That voice. Elias's smile was sharp. "This bunker isn't just a bunker," he said. "It's an old human trap from a war your people don't even remember." The Reclaimer Prime paused. For the first time, uncertainty flickered in his posture. Deep beneath the sand, something awakened. A low rumble rolled through the entire tunnel system, like a sleeping giant shifting in its chains. Seria's eyes widened in sudden understanding. Elias had not survived by fighting stronger enemies head-on. He survived by turning the world itself into a weapon. And now the Dominion hunters had stepped into the wrong den. The ground trembled harder. The lights flickered. And somewhere in the dark, ancient human machinery began to move. The rumble grew louder. Dust fell from the tunnel ceiling in slow, shaking waves. Old lights flickered, some dying completely, others flaring bright as systems that had slept for decades struggled awake. The Reclaimer Prime froze. That alone shocked Seria. Dominion elites did not freeze. "What is this structure?" the Reclaimer demanded, voice sharp now, no longer calm. Elias stepped back slowly, putting himself between Seria and the hunters. His rifle was useless against them, but he held it anyway. "This," he said. "This is what happens when humans lose a war and decide to remember it." The tunnel walls shifted. Massive locks disengaged with thunderous clanks. Deep below, engines groaned, not sleek alien tech, but raw, brutal human machinery built with one simple idea: survive at any cost. Seria felt it in her chest. Human technology didn't hum like Dominion systems. It growled. The Reclaimer Prime raised its weapon. Terminate the human. Secure the traitor. Before it could fire, the floor dropped. Not collapsed, opened. Hidden plates slid apart, and the Reclaimer Prime plunged downward, catching the edge with one clawed hand. The other two Reclaimers leapt back just in time, armor stabilizers flaring. Below them was darkness and motion. Metal arms rose from the depths, industrial manipulators the size of transport ships, snapping closed where the Reclaimer had been moments before. The sound echoed like a giant biting down on bone. The Reclaimer screamed. Seria's breath caught. Elias didn't look away. "That pit used to process ore," he said quietly. "When the mines fell, we rewired it." The second Reclaimer fired at Elias. Seria reacted without thinking. She moved. Pain exploded through her side as she lunged, slamming into Elias and knocking him aside. The plasma bolt scorched the wall where his head had been. She rolled, came up on one knee, and hurled her scrap blade. It struck the Reclaimer's visor. Not hard enough to pierce, but hard enough to crack the sensor lens. The Reclaimer staggered, blinded. Elias stared at her for half a second. "You're hurt." "Later," she snapped. The third Reclaimer advanced, calculating, adapting. It raised a wrist-mounted launcher. The bunker answered first. Auto-turrets unfolded from the walls, old human defense systems slaved to a single, stubborn command line. They opened fire. Not elegant energy beams, kinetic slugs. Thousands of them. A storm of metal. The Reclaimer's armor deflected most of it, but not all. The barrage forced them back, pinning them in place. The blinded Reclaimer tried to retreat. The floor snapped open beneath it. Gone. The last Reclaimer turned and ran. Actually ran. Seria's eyes widened. They're retreating. Elias exhaled slowly. Good. Means they're scared. The ground stopped shaking. The pit sealed. The turrets folded back into the walls like tired guardians returning to sleep. Silence returned. For several long seconds, neither of them spoke. Then Seria's legs gave out. Elias caught her before she hit the floor. "Hey," he said softly. "Stay with me." Her vision blurred. The adrenaline drained from her body, leaving only pain and exhaustion behind. "You used your own ruins," she whispered. "As a weapon." Elias nodded. "We always do." He carried her deeper into the bunker, into a chamber she hadn't seen before. It was wide, reinforced, lined with old human insignia burned into the walls. A command room. Maps flickered to life as they entered. Star charts. Supply routes. Old battle lines. Human ones. Seria stared, stunned. "This place, it's a fortress." "Was," Elias said. "Now it's just me and the ghosts." He laid her down gently and began treating her wounds again. His hands were steady, careful. "You could have escaped alone," she said. "You chose not to." Elias didn't answer immediately. Finally, he said, "Running keeps you alive. Standing your ground changes things." Her chest tightened. In the Dominion, obedience was survival. Questioning was death. Creativity was weakness. Here, a single human had turned broken machines and forgotten systems into something that made elite hunters flee. She had defended humans in theory before. Now she had seen it. Elias finished tightening the bandage and leaned back. "They won't stop," Seria said. "The Dominion will send more. Fleets." He met her gaze without fear. "Then they'll have to come through us." "Us," she repeated. He gave a tired smile. "You're not dead. And you're not Dominion anymore. Sounds like us to me." Something inside Seria broke free. Not loyalty. Hope. She pushed herself upright, wincing, but steady. "I know Dominion command structures," she said. "I know their fears. Their blind spots." Elias raised an eyebrow. "You offering advice?" "I'm offering a warning," she said. "They believe humans are strong only in desperation. They think you collapse without numbers." Elias chuckled darkly. "We prefer it that way." She looked at him, truly looked. A single human on a dead moon. No army. No fleet. Just ingenuity, memory, and refusal to surrender. "They betrayed me," she said quietly. "Left me to die." Elias nodded. "Yeah. And you saved me." He shrugged. "Someone had to." Seria straightened despite the pain. "Then I will not waste that," she said. "I will help you do something they never expected." Elias's smile faded, replaced by something sharper. "Which is?" She met his eyes. "Make the Dominion afraid of humanity." Outside, the storm finally began to clear. Above Karen 9, Dominion scanners searched in confusion, missing signals, losing hunters, finding nothing but silence where their reclaimers should have been. They didn't yet understand. Humans were done hiding. And this time, one of their own stood beside them. The silence after the battle felt heavier than the storm. Elias sat alone at the command console, eyes fixed on a rotating star map. New red markers blinked into existence, Dominion patrol routes adjusting, search grids tightening. They were cautious now. Careful. That meant the reclaimers had reported fear. Behind him, Seria stood still, studying the room. Her posture had changed since the fight. She was no longer a broken survivor clinging to warmth. She stood like a strategist. "They will not forget this," she said. "But they will pretend it was an accident." Elias nodded. Empires hate admitting mistakes. Seria stepped closer to the map. Karen 9 is insignificant to them. That makes it dangerous. "How so?" "They will test their response here," she explained. "Quietly. New tactics. New weapons. If they succeed, they erase the data. If they fail, she paused, they escalate. Elias leaned back, folding his arms. So we don't let them succeed. Seria looked at him, surprised by how easily he said it. You realize what that means, she said. You will be hunted. Not just here. Elias shrugged. Been hunted before. Difference is, this time I'm not alone. She did not correct him. A warning tone chimed from the console. Elias turned sharply. A Dominion probe had breached the outer perimeter. High altitude, passive scan. Eyes in the sky, he muttered. Seria studied the probe's path. They're mapping energy signatures. Looking for patterns. Then we give them one, Elias said. He reached under the console and pulled out a battered device, its casing marked with faded human symbols. Seria recognized the shape from old records. That's a colony beacon, she said. Decommissioned. Supposed to be, Elias replied. But it still screams like one. Her eyes widened. If you activate that, they'll think a human settlement is here. Elias smiled thinly. Exactly. Seria hesitated. That would invite annihilation. Only if they believe we're helpless. He powered the beacon. The room filled with a rising hum, a signal pushed hard into the void. Above the planet, the Dominion probe paused, then redirected its full attention toward Karen 9. Seria felt a chill. You're baiting them. No, Elias said. I'm educating them. The probe vanished in a flash of light as the bunker's hidden emitter pulsed, scrambling its systems. Debris burned in the upper atmosphere. Elias shut the beacon down. There, he said. Now they know humans are here, and that their toys don't always work. Seria stared at him. You just declared war. Elias met her gaze. They already did. We're just answering. Hours passed in tense preparation. Elias moved through the bunker, activating systems Seria didn't know humans still possessed. Old drones repurposed as decoys, heat signatures rerouted, tunnels flooded with false readings. She watched, absorbing everything. You don't fight like the Dominion, she said. No, Elias replied. We fight like survivors. A new alert chimed. This one was different. Seria leaned in. That's not a patrol. Elias frowned. That's a command signal. The screen resolved into a Dominion insignia, High Authority. A face appeared, sharp and cold, scales gleaming silver under artificial light. Seria stiffened. High Executor Varthran. The alien's eyes locked onto the camera. Seria Valketh, Varthran said. You continue to disappoint. Elias stepped into view. She's busy. Varthran's gaze shifted to him. Human. Your interference has been noted. Happy to help, Elias replied. Varthran's expression did not change. Your species survives by chance and chaos. You mistake inconvenience for power. Seria stepped forward. You betrayed me. You failed us, Varthran corrected. You questioned necessity. I questioned murder, she snapped. Varthran ignored her. Human, you shelter a liability. Surrender her, and your extinction will be delayed. Elias laughed softly. You hear that? Delayed. Varthran leaned closer to the camera. Your world will burn. Elias's smile vanished. Then you should have brought more fire. He cut the transmission. The bunker fell silent again. Seria exhaled slowly. That was a death sentence. Elias nodded. Yeah. Why didn't you negotiate? She asked. Because negotiations only work when both sides fear loss, he said. They don't fear us yet. Seria looked at the map, at the blinking routes, at the widening net. They will send a fleet, she said. Not to conquer. To erase. Elias's jaw tightened. Then we don't wait for them. He pulled up another display, older, buried deeper in the system. Human archives, locked behind layers of outdated encryption. Seria watched as he cracked them with practiced ease. "What is that?" she asked. "Records," Elias said. "From the last war your people thought we forgot." The screen filled with images, human ships burning, colonies falling, but also something else. Traps. Ambushes. Entire Dominion task forces disappearing in regions marked uninhabitable. Seria's breath caught. These losses, the Dominion never understood them. Elias nodded. "Because we never took credit." Seria turned to him slowly. "You didn't lose that war." Elias's voice was quiet. "We survived it." She understood then. Humans didn't win by domination. They won by refusing to be erased. "What do you need from me?" she asked. Elias met her eyes. "Your knowledge, your voice, and your courage to stand with us when it gets worse." Seria did not hesitate. "I will," she said. "Not because you saved me, but because you are right." Outside, Dominion fleets began to mobilize. Inside the bunker, two enemies of an empire prepared something far more dangerous than weapons. They prepared truth. And the Dominion had always feared that most. The fleet arrived without ceremony. No grand declaration. No threat broadcast across the stars. Just shadows. Dozens of Dominion warships slipped out of hyperspace above Karen 9, their hulls dark, their weapons cold and waiting. They spread out in perfect formation, a net designed to crush resistance before it could even think of becoming a problem. From the bunker below, Elias watched the sky through an old external feed. Tiny points of light moved with terrifying precision. "They came quiet," he said. Seria stood beside him, her posture steady despite the pain still threading through her body. "That means extermination, not conquest." Elias nodded. "Figures." Deep underground, human systems hummed, older than most of the Dominion ships now circling the planet. Machines built by people who had known they would lose the war, and planned anyway. Seria activated a console only she could access. Dominion command frequencies opened. High Executive Arthron's voice echoed through the chamber, cold and absolute. "This world is now sealed. All human presence will be erased." Seria stepped forward and spoke into the channel. "No." The channel went silent. Then laughter. "Seria Valketh," Varthron said. "You stand beside a species that survives by accident. You think this changes history." Seria's eyes hardened. "You misunderstand humans. That has always been your weakness." Elias glanced at her. "You sure about this?" She nodded. "They need to hear it." She continued, voice steady, carrying through the void. "You believe strength is control. You believe obedience creates stability. You believe erasing problems makes you safe." The Dominion fleet adjusted formation, weapons charging. "And yet," Seria said, "every time you faced humanity, something went wrong." Elias pressed a key. Across the planet, dormant human beacons activated, not broadcasting threats, but records. Data streams erupted into Dominion networks before they could be blocked. Battle footage. Lost fleets. Hidden traps. Human survivors rebuilding in silence. Varthron's voice sharpened. "Terminate transmission." Too late. Seria spoke again. "You never defeated humans. You only failed to kill them fast enough." Dominion ships fired. The sky lit up. But the planet answered. Human defense grids, buried beneath sand and rock, rose like ancient bones. Not powerful enough to win a direct fight. Not meant to. The first wave of Dominion fire struck false targets. Decoy signatures bloomed and died. Mines ignited in patterns that made no tactical sense, except to humans. Elias moved quickly, triggering sequences learned from ghosts. "Phase 2, he muttered. Entire sections of space destabilized as human gravity traps activated. Crude, unpredictable, devastating. Dominion ships collided, systems failing as physics itself turned against them. Panic rippled through the fleet. Seria watched in awe. "You turned chaos into doctrine." Elias didn't smile. We turned survival into an art. Vathran reappeared on the channel, fury breaking through control. Human. You cannot win this. Elias leaned forward. We don't have to. He transmitted one final package. Coordinates. Human colonies. Human worlds. Alive. Growing. Unified. You wanted to erase us quietly, Elias said. Now the galaxy knows you tried. The Dominion fleet hesitated. That hesitation was everything. Other signals appeared on the edge of the system. Independent fleets. Neutral powers. Species that had feared Dominion expansion for centuries. Watching. Recording. Vathran understood too late. You exposed us, he hissed. Seria stepped forward. You exposed yourselves. One by one, Dominion ships disengaged. Not retreat. Withdrawal. Above Karen 9, the sky slowly cleared. The war was not over. But it had changed forever. Hours later, silence settled over the bunker again. Elias sat heavily on a crate, exhaustion finally winning. Well, he said, that's going to cause some meetings. Seria laughed softly. The sound surprised them both. You didn't just save me, she said. You gave me a future. Elias shook his head. You chose it. She looked at the stars through the viewport, free now, unclaimed. They betrayed me and left me to die, she said. But you showed me something stronger than loyalty. What's that? Elias asked. Choice. Elias followed her gaze. Yeah, that's kind of our thing. Far away, in council chambers and command halls, alien civilizations began to ask new questions. Not how powerful are humans, but what happens when humans decide to stand together? And for the first time in a long time, the answer frightened the galaxy. The end.